In November of 2019, Venice suffered one of its worst floods ever. A state of emergency was declared, the flood tide reaching a peak height of 6.1 feet above sea level, resulting in more than 80% of the city being underwater, with the flood causing an estimated €1 billion worth of damage. The city's most iconic area, St. Mark's Square, was covered in feet of water, making it unavailable to anyone. Venice has always been prone to flooding, with historical acqua alta events, meaning high water, that would temporarily flood the city at various times throughout the year. Though what is strange now is how these floods have happened more often and are bigger than the ones before. 1923 is when water levels were initially recorded. The floods since then have reached over 59 inches on 10 occasions, although 5 of the 10 have happened within the last 3 years. The situation gets even worse. Due to the city's poor foundation, the city itself is sinking into the ground, worsening the flooding that the city faces. Clearly, a problem is happening in Venice. But what are the people of the sinking city doing to fight against this flooding dilemma? Venice was built in the 5th century after the fall of the Roman Empire. Following the empire's collapse, many fled to the islands of the lagoon where Venice now stands. The islands were not enough to hold all of the refugees, so the new settlers came up with a unique solution to create more space. Wooden poles were driven deep into the clay beneath the ground. On top of these poles, they laid wooden platforms, where they constructed their buildings on top. Essentially, the city of Venice was founded on wood, clay, and water. Over numerous centuries, many of the buildings built on top of this foundation are either sinking into the mud or shifting position. The many wells in the city to provide water to the citizens have enhanced this impact due to its groundwater extraction, letting the city sink about 5.9 inches into the clay within the past century, and is only expected to keep on descending into the lagoon. It is possible to replace the wood underneath the structures, but the problem lies with the ridiculous amount of funding needed to fix the foundation, and so far, there is no simple resolve for this sinking. Venice consists of 391 bridges, connecting 120 islands that are separated by 117 canals. But these bridges and islands could soon disappear beneath the water as early as 2100. How, you may ask? Climate change. The worst case of a 4 degrees Celsius increase in temperature by the year 2100 could raise the relative sea level in Venice by almost 6 feet. Even if global temperature rise is kept below 2 degrees Celsius, the sea levels in Venice would rise 13 inches by 2100. Any small increase in sea levels would lead to an increase in frequency and intensity of coastal floodings from storms and waves. One method to reduce the flooding, but not completely solve it, is to deepen the underwater channels that run through Venice. Another method is a project called MOSE, made up of 78 defensive barriers, each 66 feet wide. Every barrier is placed in a strategic position within the sea to minimize flooding. The construction of these barriers began in 2003, and it was activated for the first time in 2020, though the project is still not yet fully functional. The barriers are submerged in water when the sea is calm, but rise up, peeking out of the water to block the incoming tide. The project is designed to combat large water level rises. Therefore, they only activate when the waters rise to 3.6 feet. Although this may seem like it solves the problem, it doesn't help in areas that are low-lying. There is also a huge financial burden while using the barrier. Each time it is raised, it is estimated that it costs about €323,000. Furthermore, if the barrier is frequently raised, it is possible that the barriers could trap sewage within the lagoon. Climate change and the foundation sinking aren't the only problems affecting the city. 60% of buildings lining the Grand Canal are slowly damaged by the wakes created by boats. The wakes make the building's foundations weaker and increase the cost needed for maintenance work. Starting in 2021, cruise ships were banned from entering the center of the city, and instead now need to dock at the industrial port. Though, some citizens believe this isn't enough, and hold protests to try to reduce the city's water speed limits. Currently, boats are allowed to travel a maximum of 7 miles per hour to minimize wake damage. Water provides Venice with both advantages and disadvantages. Its lagoon makes it an ideal location for a port, and annually attracts millions of tourists from around the world. But at the same time, Venice's beloved water will eventually lead to its own demise. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe and leave a like, and I will see you all next time.